Is the 40-hour work week obsolete? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to share my thoughts on the 40-hour work week and why I think it might be obsolete. And you may have heard in the news that there's a push toward a 4-day work week. And I want to talk about whether or not that actually has any traction. So in this video, I'm going to break down some data points suggesting that maybe we could be moving toward a 4-day work week. But before we get into that, if you're interested in learning how to reclaim control and start to act like the CEO of your career, make sure you sign up for my free weekly newsletter. And in it, I share concise, actionable tips each and every week to ensure that you can approach your job search and your career with more conviction and authority. Keep in mind, it's absolutely free, so you don't want to miss it. So the good news for most of us here in the United States is that it does look like a 4-day work week is starting to gain traction. There's been bills pushed in several states recently to encourage employers to consider a 32-hour work week as the standard. So as the heated debate of remote work wages back and forth between employer and employee, one of the interesting new trends that seems to be emerging is this idea of a 32-hour work week, or in other words, a 4-day work week. And this isn't just theoretical. There are actually some countries and some companies who have adopted a 4-day work week with very positive results. For example, in Canada, a 4-day work week pilot just wrapped up, and the results are encouraging. 41 companies who participated in the trial have all agreed to continue the work model. And interestingly enough, what they found was this. Revenue increased by 15% over the course of the trial. Working hours were reduced an average of 38 to less than 33 over the course of 12 months. Burnout was reduced by 17%. Mental health improved by 17%. Life satisfaction by 16%, and work-life balance obviously improved by a whopping 35%. In fact, the pilot was so successful that employees surveyed said that they would need 45% more income or pay in order to consider going back to a traditional 5-day work week. And in the UK, there's also a similar study done with similar results, and there's other countries that have adopted it as well. And here in the US, we've seen some states actively introducing legislation to mandate a 32-hour work week in some instances. And the most recent at the time of this recording is Pennsylvania. In August, Ronnie Green stated that she was looking to introduce a 4-day work week legislation in Pennsylvania to enable workers more downtime and allow them to focus on mental and physical health. Now, this bill would require businesses with more than 500 employees to reduce their work hours to 32 without reducing employee pay. And of course, that's going to be a very important consideration for people who might be considering moving to a 32-hour work week. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to work for hourly employees who obviously get paid by the hours that they put in, but nonetheless, it's a very encouraging development. In addition, we've also seen some other states introducing legislation with a similar goal in mind. Back in June of 2023, California also put forward legislation that argued a 32-hour work week for Californians. And under that legislation, companies would need to compensate employees who worked over the proposed 32-hour threshold in accordance with the Fair Labor Standards Act. More on that in just a minute. And in Massachusetts, we also saw legislation filed for a 4-day work week pilot across the entire state, which would last for 2 years. And this one's a voluntary program, but there would be some government grants and tax credits for companies who participated in it. And if you're a teacher based in Missouri, you might also have a 4-day work week coming your way as well. The state announced that it would be switching to a 4-day work week for a third of its schools, which would affect almost 100,000 students. Now, of course, that would pose some obvious logistical problems for parents who are working 5 days a week, and they've got to figure out a daycare solution. But the fortunate thing about this one is that the move has been primarily made with the staff in mind, with 62% of teachers in the state leaving by their 5th year. Because over the last few years, there's been a lot of turnover in the teacher ranks, and this is an attempt to stop the bleeding, so to speak. And there's been some other states recently that have tried to introduce legislation, but it didn't quite work, including Hawaii, Utah, Maryland. Now, the question of how do we even get to the 40-hour work week is an entire video in and of itself, and I'll probably cover that in the future. The main legislation that you should be concerned about today is the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Franklin Roosevelt passed it in order to establish some standards from the federal government about how we here in the United States approach the workday. Originally, the Fair Labor Standards Act was created to establish guidelines around minimum wage, overtime, record keeping, youth employment standards affecting employees in both the private and public sector. The Fair Labor Standards Act, otherwise known as the Wage and Hour Law, established minimum guidelines that employers have to follow with regard to working conditions. And this is where it provided a 40-hour work week standard, which we have today. because it guaranteed time and a half for overtime in certain jobs. It outlawed oppressive child labor, and it also established federal minimum wage standards. But obviously the modern workplace has evolved significantly over the last 85 years, and a lot of these states are determining that it's time to revisit the 40-hour work week. And as companies are seeming to wage war with their employees about forcing them back into the office, something has to give. Because what it does show to me is that there is an appetite in the modern workplace for employees to have that added flexibility. And if companies want to make sure that they're retaining their top talent at the same time they're trying to force people back into the office, this may be a way to do it. And considering that 81% of workers say they'd be more productive if they were given the opportunity to work a 4-day work week, it might be something that employers who want to stay on the cutting edge will take a long and hard look at. So the question is, will we see a 4-day work week in our lifetime? I'd like to think we will. I'll be certainly paying close attention to this one, but what are your thoughts? Would you be interested in working a 4-day work week if it was offered, and assuming you didn't have to take a pay cut to do so? Leave me a comment below. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.